Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world are Rise News analysts Emmanuel Ifeni and Dayo Shobale. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, Cynthia. Good afternoon, Nee.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dayo.
Good afternoon.
Yes, we'll start the review with These Days, Nigeria's newspaper of record. We start with the lead story. CBN doubles down on monetary tightening again. Raises MPR to 24.75% to curb inflation. Increases merchant banks' cash reserve ratio to 14% from 10%. Urges federal government to address food insecurity, implement agricultural policies to improve supply. Apex Bank seeks to expedite banks' recapitalization. Cardoso insists all verified FX backlog settled. $2.4 billion ineligible. Security agencies probing dubious transaction. Says CBN won't restrict daily firms from FX market. Naira appreciates to 1,350 Naira to the dollar. Yes, the CBN governor, after the MPC meeting yesterday, came up with the increase in the MPR to 24.7%. Well,
to fight inflation.
Yes, to curb inflation. But I think significantly, he's also saying that beyond the monetary policy, there are other policies that must be dealt with by the federal government to bring down inflation.
Yes. And Nasima even said the federal government is borrowing so much from the CBN.
Yes,
it's not allowing the private sector.
Yes, I think that story is also
that's right.
inside this day, page 5, where Nasima writes, Dun Cardoso says, government borrowing from banks blocking private sector access to credit. Urges government minimize insatiable borrowing disposition. 6 sectoral limits on public borrowing.
But there's a rule on that.
Yes.
Which the last government violated seriously, about 1,000% of what
okay,
that's borrow.
That's from the central bank.
From the central bank. You get me? See, when government borrows money, it has a period within which it must return it. If it does not return it, it is not allowed to borrow again. But that was violated rampantly during the Buhari regime. I hope this government will not fall into that trap too.
Yes, but the issue of food insecurity.
Yes.
Factors that are also pushing inflation, especially food inflation. He talked about transportation. Transportation, very expensive with the price of diesel.
They are all linked together to affect the price.
Of course.
The delivery price of so many items.
Yes, and areas once described as the food basket of the nation.
Yes.
Being under the control of bandits and headers who make it literally impossible for farmers to do what they do best, produce food for the nation. Even despite the fact that they are not even mechanized farmers, but they feed the nation. But these days, because of the activities of headers and bandits, people cannot access their farms. So these are also contributory factors to why food is it's not that they are not available. It's expensive because in the case of transportation, they pass on the cost to the consumers.
Of course.
Who have to pay more. You go to the market, like you always say, the food stuff are there.
Yes.
But it's very expensive.
It must be harrowing when somebody tells you to pay protection fee on account of your contributions.
In fact, to harvest your crops, you have to pay a fee.
Protection fee.
In many parts of the Northwest right now, right? Now, let's look at the other newspapers. The Punch newspaper, CBN, EFCC probe banks, firms over alleged forest racketeering. CBN implements Deloitte FX audit report. EFCC may summon CEOs over $2.4 billion invalid requests. Several FX requests fraudulent, made with invalid illegal documents, Cardoso insists, of course, still from that briefing, the issue of this $2.4 billion ineligible. But for that due diligence, in auditing that so-called $7 billion backlog, right? $2.4 billion will have just left our economy to some fraudulent transactions. And so it's not enough to just stop at that of mentioning it. Good a thing, the central bank was able to fish out that fraudulent aspect of the FX backlog and did not pay that. But they need to get to the roots of the matter.
The CBN,
those who were behind this, how the banks also brought about this documentation, and they were all part of the FX backlog. So I think that's what
the CBN is the regulator of the banking industry.
Yes.
The banking industry must be sanitized. They know that. They know that. I'm happy they have involved even EFCC now.
Yes.
Let's see what goes on. Because the banks have always been making profit under thick and thin, under any whatever circumstances. They make the biggest profit. Go and look at the annual reports.
Yeah. So if things that are fishy within that sector, of course, it's part of the job of the CBN to clear the mess from the banking sector, right? Now, the Business Day newspaper will just leave the lead story there and look at the story, two other stories. FX crash on international route over FX Airpeace debut. Of course, Airpeace will be making their debut flight to London. The price of economy ticket now 1.2 million. So
see, I think
it looks here, but compared to
an award.
Yes. And of course that summer Cynthia has been talking about, you cannot go to a summer.
The crash.
We were talking about summer.
But also the clearing of the backlog of FX, which these foreign airlines have been talking about. With that also, the airlines, foreign airlines, are not taking a cue because they know before long everybody will want to fly Airpeace. Of course, the March 30 maiden flight to Gatwick Airport is already fully booked. So it's a good thing that a Nigerian airline is now making that trip, and patriotism.
Airpeace crash the price. Airpeace crash the price.
They've been dominating for quite some time now. So.
Okay, let's look at the Nation newspaper. Governor, my state epicenter of kidnapping and banditry, Lawal, seeks full military action to stop bandits. Kidnappers should be treated as terrorists. That's the president making that statement there. Military frees 230 Boko Haram suspects. Now, the governor of Zamfara State was at Aso Villa, and he has told the president that, look, Zamfara State is the epicenter. Imagine those children who were kidnapped in Kaduna, they were released in Zamfara. So the bandits are having a free reign. And I wonder why our soldiers could not just go there and smoke them out. You cannot be fighting bandits in Kaduna and they have a safe haven in Zamfara State. It has to be a total onslaught. Well, the president has promised that, well, these bandits are terrorists and they must be treated as such.
Indeed.
We just hope this is not just presidential talk and one for the headlines. And we want to see concrete action in this direction. Now, the Vanguard newspaper, Okwama, how government security bodies fail to rein in militant leader. Vanguard investigation. This story is a must read for whoever is interested in what is happening in the Niger Delta. This kingpin that the soldiers are not looking for is well known to them. This was a guy who sacked the traditional ruler of his community, Igbomoro, right? And the traditional ruler complained to government authorities, complained to the army, to the police, yet this guy was left, and until he now killed.
The problem has been simmering.
Yes, it has been simmering. They know him, as a militant who caused problems even in his own community. Yet he had a free rein until he was alleged to have killed 17 officers and men of the Nigerian army, right?
Yeah.
So it's something that, but another aspect to it is that as the New Telegraph is reporting, Okwama, soldiers invaded my country home, father's compound, Clarks. Says troop claim they were looking for soldiers killers. Of course, the home of elder statesman Chief Ike Clark was raided by soldiers yesterday, first in Ughelli town, where the house actually belongs to his father. The man was known as Pa Clark, better get there more late. That's the father of Ike Clark. He owns that house in Ughelli. It was invaded. Yeah. And even when the commander called from Port Harcourt to apologize to Chief Ike Clark, oh, they never knew that was his house. They just got a tip that a signal of somebody were looking for was around there. They invaded his home in Kiagbodo, including that of his late younger brother, Akpori the Club, one time permanent representative of Niger to the United Nations.
Hopefully we can get a foreign.
Yes, we just look at the Times of London. The Times of London, just 1 in 4 say NHS is working. The Times of London, if you put it up there. British people used to see the NHS as the pride of Britain. And of course, the poster program when it comes to healthcare globally. But today, only 25% of persons who use the NHS say they are satisfied that it's working well. Of course, shortage of medical personnel, doctors leaving, going for better pay elsewhere. Just like they leave Nigeria and jackpot to UK, doctors are also jackpotting from UK to elsewhere. They receive better pay package.
Indeed. Thank you, gentlemen, for your review. Mr. Emmanuel Feni, Mr. Dayo, thank you for joining us here on Newsday.